Thought is Reality. An Introduction to the 7-Minute Daily Focus. Part 1. The Principle of Thought. Thought is not imagination first. Thought is reality in metaphysical form. It is the seed, the origin, the blueprint for how all physical expression is translated. A thought carries no mass, has no spatial extension, and cannot be measured by physical instruments, yet it shapes the entirety of your physical world. Thought is metaphysical actuality, complete, whole, and existing before time. Physical reality is not its cause, it is its report. To understand the 7-minute daily focus is to recognize that every desire you have ever held already exists in metaphysical form. Your task is not to create, but to perceive. Thought is the first movement of reality, not a movement in time or space, but a movement in awareness. When you think, you are not manufacturing wishful thinking, you are encountering a metaphysical actuality that already is. That is why certain desires are sensed as natural, effortless, or intuitively correct. They are recognitions, not inventions. A thought is a metaphysical form that carries the whole architecture of its own expression. Every detail of its physical translation is embedded within it. When you perceive a desire, you perceive its completed metaphysical blueprint, a blueprint that reality holds in completion. That is why the 7-minute daily focus begins with thought. For if you misunderstand thought, you misunderstand everything that follows. Thought is not merely a psychological event, it is a metaphysical encounter. It is contact with the metaphysically unseen world that governs all physically seen outcomes. Consider this: the physical world has limits. Time, space, mass, measurement, and decay. Thought has none of the previous. It cannot be timed, weighed, or confined. It does not age. It does not erode. Thought belongs to a state that is not subject to the restrictions of material existence, and yet it instructs material existence. Thought is the only bridge between actuality and appearance. Before anything appears in your physical environment, it must first be held in thought. Not because thought makes it real, but because thought is how you perceive what is real. Perception is the beginning of the thought's journey to its physical translation. When you hold a thought with clarity, you stabilize your awareness of its metaphysical form. When your awareness stabilizes, your state stabilizes. When your state stabilizes, your appearance begins to adjust itself to match the state you occupy. This sequence is not creative in the traditional sense. It is translative. You are not forcing reality to give you something new. You are aligning with what was already yours in its metaphysical form. Consider actuality as a complete library of everything your life contains, for every possibility, every expression, every outcome, all held in a finished metaphysical state. Perception is how you walk down the aisles of that library. Thinking is choosing and opening what to read. Thoughts are the content of that book. Belief is the receiving, and focus is the holding of the said book. Appearance is the physical copy printed into your physical world. To master the principle of thought is to become literate in this metaphysical library. It is to recognize that every thought is a page from a completed reality. Some thoughts resonate because they belong to your actuality. Others fall away because they do not align with your identity. The 7-minute daily focus teaches you to identify which thoughts belong to your actual reality and which belong to contradiction. To pay attention to the ones that are your actualities that you desire. Your power comes from metaphysical recognition, not from mere physical mental effort. Thought is also the seat of your identity. What you predominantly think reveals who you are, not in a psychological sense, but in a metaphysical one. Identity is not formed from the outside world. It is discovered in the world of thought. When you recognize the thoughts that arise naturally within you, the ones that carry resonance, clarity, and inevitability, you are recognizing your metaphysical self. That is why you must not dismiss your desires as fantasies. A desire is a metaphysical indicator pointing to actuality. You do not desire what does not already exist in metaphysical form. Desire is not the beginning of creation. It is at the beginning of awareness concerning that desire. Also, thought reveals the distinction between the first sense and the five senses. The five senses report what has already appeared. They are reactive instruments, but the first sense perceives metaphysical form. It is intuitive, instantaneous, and unbound by physical sequence. When a thought arises through the first sense, you are perceiving something the physical senses cannot yet report. This is why many people doubt their desires. They confuse the absence of physical proof with the presence of metaphysical actuality, but the absence of physical proof is irrelevant. Physical proof can be potentially slow. Metaphysical actuality is immediate. Your task is not to wait for physical confirmation, but to perceive with clarity what the first sense has revealed. That is the essence of metaphysical literacy. Learning to trust the first sense over the five senses. The physical world will always appear to contradict what is true until translation catches up. When you understand the principle of thought, you begin to live from actuality rather than appearance. You stop reacting to the physical world, and instead, the world begins to react to you. You hold the inner truth and allow the outer world to reposition itself accordingly. Thought is your first environment, the metaphysical atmosphere in which you live before you ever encounter the physical one. The quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your state, and your state determines the quality of your appearance. That is why the 7-minute daily focus places thought at the beginning of your daily practice. In 7 minutes, you are not trying to change your world. You are stabilizing your awareness of the reality that already is. Thought is the foundation of everything you will learn in the coming parts. Without it, focus has no object, belief has no content, and appearance has no instruction. To think is to perceive is to recognize is to translate. Thought is the first literacy of reality.